Well, welcome, Myrtle Beach community. That was not even a response. Well, welcome, Myrtle Beach community. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Prock. I am the Chief of Police of the Myrtle Beach Police Department. But here I am, just a member of our Myrtle Beach community, and I am excited to be here. I'm also part of the coordinated effort. This is a coalition of service providers to our community here in the Myrtle Beach area that works hard to address issues in mental health and substance use disorder and homelessness in our community. We're working hard to provide services to our community, how we can help find ways to do that. We've been working hard over the last year to do that, and we're going to continue to work hard. Tonight is a night of knowledge. We're working to focus on educating our community, trying to find other ways to address areas of need in our community, fill those gaps, and hear from our community. We want to provide information to our community, and that's what we're doing here today. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to somebody that's extremely important to me, one of my friends and one of my partners here in our community, Christy Morris. She's a pastor here at Midtown Vineyard Church. She is our host to where we meet the third Thursday of every month. And I want to make sure I emphasize that, the third Thursday of every month. Because if you did not know, you're invited the third Thursday of every month to come with us at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to meetings that we have here to talk about how we can help those in our community. So sit back, relax. Tonight is the night of knowledge. This is an opportunity for you to be educated, to you to understand what we're doing in our community. You may be a service provider. You may think you know what we do in our community to help those in need of mental health, or those who in need that are unhoused, or those in need that are suffering from substance use disorder. But maybe your organization doesn't do something else. Tonight, you're going to learn about some of those things. And maybe you'll point out something that we don't know. That's what we're here tonight to talk about. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to educate, and that's what this is about tonight. So without further ado, again, I want to introduce somebody very important to me. But tonight is also about learning to meet new people. So if you don't mind, Miss Christy, I'm going to ask everybody for just a second in Southern hospitality style, just to turn around, look to your left and look to your right, introduce yourself to those people that you do not know.
I'm getting blown off on this side, so made a friend.
So that's what I'm talking about, Southern hospitality, right? We're not shy here in Myrtle Beach, and we're not shy here in South Carolina. So again, sit back, relax. You're going to meet some incredible people, some of the people that I work very closely with here in Myrtle Beach, and I'm very excited for you to meet them today. Without further ado, Pastor Christy Morris.
Welcome, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. I don't know about you, but I actually felt like I've already had church because I've had food and fellowship. Now we're going to hear the word, maybe, from a lot of specialists. We're going to open up with prayer, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. We started this a year ago, last year. We've done this several times, and with the coordinated effort meetings, we've done many of those. I began at the beginning not knowing a whole lot, but wanted to know a whole lot, and have learned something every single time. So much valuable information, but not just information, great networking, if you've noticed, has been going on tonight and will continue. And when we have people that show up at our doorstep, we know exactly who to call. And we already have those in my phone that I can dial. So many great resources. So we're glad you're here. I'm just going to open up with prayer. God, we thank you for tonight. Thank you for every person that is here tonight, that they are not here by mistake. Whether they are a service provider or a parent or a friend or just a neighbor who wants to learn more. God, we ask that you would speak through these panelists and give us ears to hear, give us eyes to see, and learn more. And we ask that you be glorified in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Chief Prock. I use the microphone because I'm not as loud as her.
Well, as I said, lean back, have a great time tonight. Ask questions. That's what this is about, is learning, educating yourself, being able to take that information and pass it on to people you work with, people that you are around, your family, those that are in need tonight. So we're going to take that opportunity to learn tonight. Without further ado, I am going to introduce somebody that has been instrumental in this effort with the coordinated effort, in addition to instrumental in our community. Her name is Dr. Ann Gowdy. She works with ECHO. She's going to tell you a little bit about what she does, because she does a lot. She doesn't just work with ECHO. She is a partner. She's an ambassador to Myrtle Beach area and her organization. She is instrumental in working with so many different organizations in our community, also having us learn about the continuum of care, how that works within our community, and so many other things. So without further ado, I ask Dr. Ann Gowdy, who's going to come up and be our MC.
Thanks, everybody. As we go, so thank you. My name is Dr. Ann Gowdy. I go by Ann. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm so happy to be here with you. As Chief was saying, one thing I love is serving, and I'm very grateful that I have been able to turn service into something that I get to do every day. I was raised by parents that let me believe anything is possible. So if you haven't met me, hang on to your hat when you do, because I believe anything is possible. So I'm very thankful to join with you tonight and to be able to share some information, some numbers, and hopefully some inspiration. So I want to start off with a quote that I think really sets the stage for us. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Dr. Wayne Dyer, tonight I hope we help change the way that you may look at things by what you will hear and learn tonight. So we are here because we have a community issue, an issue with homelessness, mental health, and substance use. Often these issues intersect one another and go hand in hand. As a community, we have an opportunity to come together to be able to help change things. We have one goal, where no one is on the streets without a place to call home, where no one is struggling with substance use or mental health issues, where everyone has an opportunity to have a place to call home. They have a place where they can be healthy and happy and live in a way that helps them to feel connected within our community. And how we have been working with that is our community coordinated effort, where we have community members, the faith community, law enforcement, social service agencies, and the list goes on, all coming together so we can learn who we are, what are we doing, and how can we work together to meet the needs of our community and what's missing. So, I'd love to focus on what is happening in our community with the information that we do have. As much as I love information, I love to be clear. The numbers that I share are not the only numbers that we have. It provides a picture and a better understanding. It is not definitive. They are not just numbers. These are merely helping us have a better idea of how many real people are experiencing real issues. So what are some of the major factors that can lead to someone experiencing homelessness? One of those is there being a lack of affordable housing. The housing wage, what someone needs to make in order to pay no more than about 30% of their income to be able to afford somewhere to live in South Carolina is a little over $17 an hour. In Horry County, the average hourly wage and what it costs to rent a modest affordable unit, there is a wage gap of about $8 an hour. Just starting off thinking about what our wages are and what someone could afford to be able to pay, that is already a challenging situation. It could take someone making minimum wage, working 91 hours a week to afford a modest 1-bedroom in South Carolina. I know a lot of us in here, I see some familiar faces, some folks I've heard a lot about through your work in the community, and I would venture to say you're probably working 55, 60 hours a week. But could you imagine having to work 91 hours in 1 week just to have a place to lay your head down at night? The top 30 occupations in South Carolina, with some of the most common here in Horry County, are fast food, counter workers, retail sales, cashiers, and their average wages fall short of being able to afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment without being cost burden. And that is assuming that they are provided and have an opportunity to work a full-time schedule. So, severe cost burden. Here in Horry County, about 25%, a little over 9,000 of renters are considered what's called severe cost burden, meaning they spend more than half of their gross income on rent, or they have no income at all. This includes rent and utilities. There's something else called shelter poverty. Shelter poverty are for folks that are experiencing high housing costs and they are short in meeting their basic needs, which can range from food, clothing, bills, childcare. Here in Horry County, about 30% of residents are experiencing shelter poverty. So think about a housing wage, think about the severe cost burden, think about shelter poverty. So when we start looking at housing affordability, we begin to see a better picture of where it can be challenging for a lot of our folks to be able to find a safe and stable place to live. I'm not going to go into the numbers. I think we've all heard or experienced ourselves that the cost to rent an apartment or a unit here in Horry County has gone up astronomically. It's received national news. I think it's over 18% in a short amount of time. And that makes it difficult for folks to be able to keep their own home. So to better help us understand housing within our community as well, I wanted to share with you some numbers from 2020 and 2021. And our local provider of permanent housing is an agency that I work for, ECHO, just to give you a perspective of what that looked like. So ECHO, in those 2 years, provided a little over 76,000 emergency bed nights. There were about 3,140 persons who were housed, which was a little over 1,700 households. A little over 1,600 households. In the last couple of years, through a program called Emergency Rental Assistance, here in Horry County, 4,004 households were prevented from being evicted and becoming homeless through funds through the ERAP program. Think about that. 4,000 households. Where would they be if there was not assistance to be able to keep them in their own home? When we think about the school system, the most recent data we have for students who are in school, we were able to learn from Horry County schools that 650 students that were enrolled identified as experiencing homelessness. For those of you who serve children and families, my guess is you would think those numbers are higher. But that is what we know, 650 students. Substance use, we'll be hearing more from Dr. Emmel and some of our other panelists this evening, so I won't spend much time on those numbers. For mental health, I don't want to steal the thunder or information from some of our other panelists, but briefly, United Way of Horry County with Blakely Root did a community needs assessment recently, and what they learned from Horry County residents is that they expressed concerns with aspects of our community health, which included using illegal drugs, the need for mental health services and mental health care, and also a concern for affordable housing. So it's something that we're hearing across from our community members, from those of us who are service providers in law enforcement or within the faith community. So I want to close you. I could talk all night, but I know we've got a wonderful group of panelists we want to hear from. But I want to leave you with something, another quote. My new favorite person to quote is Bob Ross, and that is, "It's hard to see things when you're too close. Take a step back and look." For those of us who do this work every day, I really want you to think about it, and that's something I'm challenging myself to do. It's hard to see things when you're too close. Take a step back and look. Let's look tonight. Let's work on being able to see things differently. And so without further ado, we're going to have our panelists come on up and switch gears to our panel. Panelists, don't be shy. Do you want me to come out and walk you up?
We're going to do a little bit of stage change real quick.
So as we're finishing getting set up and everyone's getting their seats, as we pose questions to the panelists, we will introduce them at that time. And this is the stack of questions for folks who like to gauge time. So some of these are close together, but we'll go through them fairly quickly. So again, thank you to all of our panelists for being willing to serve. I tried to count up how many years of experience combined, but math is not my strength. So I think I stopped around 150 years, and there were still some more folks. So we have a lot of experience on this panel, folks from a variety of different disciplines and backgrounds and experiences. So buckle up, we're fixing to get started. And we will open up with a question for Blakely Root. And Blakely is the president and CEO of the United Way of Horry County. Horry County has three main focus areas, one being access to behavioral health services. Blakely's been in the Myrtle Beach for the last 17 years, and she has worked in nonprofits in Myrtle Beach for the last 10 years. Before that, she was with the Myrtle Beach Chamber of Commerce. She's passionate about addiction recovery from dealing with several family members and loved ones who suffer from the disease. Lastly, Blakely is an avid University of Georgia Bulldog fan. Just kidding. She's a Clemson and Tennessee fan. So, Blakely, we're going to turn it over to you. And the question we have, go Dogs, is what is 211?
I was about to give. Hold on. I can talk loud.
We can hear you.
Okay. I was about to give you props, Dr. Gowdy, for how well you did earlier, but I take it all back. 211 is like 911, but for resources. So 211 is a national number, and typically they're run by United Ways. But basically, anyone can call 211 from any phone, anytime, anywhere, 365 days of the year. A variety of languages, and ask for resources, whether it be help with rent, detox, behavioral health, needing new dentures, prescriptions, diapers, you name it. It's completely anonymous, and we're always consistently updating the list on 211. They're all local resources, and it's all, anyone to be on 211 has to be either providing free services or services on a sliding scale. So it's not like they're going to be referred to somewhere that's going to take advantage of them. And in Horry County, we had almost 6,000 calls, referrals last year for just in the Myrtle Beach community.
And if there is an agency out here, or someone that knows of an agency that doesn't have their information in there, how can they get it added?
So fortunately, we have Emma over here, and she actually is an AmeriCorps Vista, and her whole role is working with 211 and updating. So typically, you can get with us, and there's a form we fill out to make sure we have all the information. You can also go online and create a profile. But if you're here tonight, I'm sure Emma would be happy to get that information and get it updated. And we do consistently call and make sure that the information is updated. And if you think for maybe a reason your agency isn't on there, be sure to let us know. And I always tell people, go on there and check it out on the website or call and see if it's listed.
Awesome, thanks Blakely. Our next question is for Dr. Emmel, who attended both undergraduate and medical school at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. He completed his family medicine residency at the Medical University of South Carolina. He became interested in addiction during his residency and has been the medical director of the Charleston Center since 1980. He is board certified in family medicine and addiction medicine. He's a founding member of the chapter of the American Society of Addiction Medicine. He has extensive experience in medication-assisted treatment and withdrawal management. He also serves as the medical director for DAODAS, which is the Department of Alcohol and Other Drugs and Services. That's a mouthful. You got the idea. He holds a clinical faculty position at the Medical University of South Carolina in the departments of both family medicine and psychiatry. As a clinician and educator, Dr. Emmel approaches addiction as a biobehavioral disease requiring the same multimodal approaches as all chronic diseases do to optimize outcomes. Did I pronounce that word right? Oh, sure. Wonderful. Multimodal. Got it. All right, so Dr. Emmel, one of the questions for you includes, please explain the science behind addiction. We're starting out easy here.
After that bio, you gotta get me good.
I'm so glad you've all agreed to stay for the weekend. Some of you may have heard me talk before, talking about some of the science of addiction and how similar it is to adult onset diabetes. There's a hereditary component, there's a behavioral component, there's an environmental component. I often have a lot of slides that we go through, but today I thought I'd do something different. Let's talk about the brain, because that's what's going wrong during addiction. I don't know if you've ever thought of it before, but when someone was designing the brain, did you ever wonder, did they think, I'm going to put a part in there that if the human should find just the right piece of vegetation, suck it, chew it, distill it, snort it, or inject it, they're going to feel really good. I'm thinking maybe that's not what that part of the brain was for. There's got to be some other reason that it's in there. We know that the chemistry of the brain becomes abnormal in people who are addicted. A particular chemical that is involved is called dopamine, in an ironic way, because it's not called that because people get high on dope. It's just a coincidence. And it's similar to the way we think of diabetes is about insulin. Of course, it's much more complicated, but you can hang your hat on that. So we hang our hat on the dopamine chemistry in a certain part of the brain. Well, I learned long ago from one of the venerable, original addiction physicians, Dr. Doug Talbot of the Talbot campus, if you know that, in Georgia, that this part of the brain is the region of the 5 Fs. Now, before I get to the 5 Fs, I want to make sure you understand kind of what the basis is of addiction. We can go through all kind of criteria and all kind of biochemistry, but here's what it comes down to. Number 1, a person has a desire for a drug that becomes very strong, almost so much as to become an obsession. They describe craving. Some people go so far as to say, I need it. The second thing is there's a failure to control the use of the drug. It becomes unmanageable. A person is a poor predictor of when they will stop once they start. There are plenty of people using drugs out there who stop anytime they want to. Not so people who are diseased with addiction. And finally, the third thing is, if you have that strong craving, you can't control your drug use, bad things are going to happen to you. It may be you're late on the rent. It may be you lost your child. It may be you lost your job. Maybe you got shot, HIV, hepatitis C, rape, abuse. Anything from minor to dead, bad things happen. And in spite of the fact that there's a brain in your head, knowing that those things are going to happen, when that craving comes around, you use anyway. And you can't control it anymore the next time. And you go around that circle. We can talk all the science you want, but that's what it comes down to. Let's talk about the 5 F's for a few minutes. The first F stands for food. Anybody out there ever been really, really hungry? Maybe like before you got here tonight and got some pulled pork? And then, when you get some food, how does that feel? Super good. Second F, fluids. Anybody ever been really, really parched and thirsty? Well, when you got just some ice water or tea, what a feeling. What a quencher. Give me some more. The third F stands for feelings. In the Middle Ages, an unfortunate experiment was done. Monks took children away from their mothers, and they gave them food, they gave them fluids, but they did not give them any feeling. They didn't hold them, they didn't cuddle them, they didn't talk to them. How do you think those kids turned out? Dead. Later we could not be social, but early on, without some type of socialization, the infant would just lose interest in eating and drinking and wither away. The pediatricians call it failure to thrive. And the fourth and fifth F's are the fight or flight response. Everybody knows what that is. Under stress, you've got 2 options. Get out! Put them up. It's a pretty good thing because you can imagine in the olden days, I want to make sure I run fast enough to get back to the cave before that saber-toothed tiger gets me. So, but now, we have both real stresses like that and even minor stresses. Maybe just talking in front of people. You get an idea, maybe you don't want to be there. So, if you think about these 5 F's, isn't that what's keeping me alive? Pretty darn good thing. Somebody put that part in my brain. Unfortunately, by an accident of chemistry, there are certain chemicals on the planet that if they make it to that part of the brain, they give you a feeling as if a hunger had been satisfied, as if a thirst had been quenched. It says, you should do some more of that to survive. Everybody follow? So, this unfortunate hijacking explains the basics of this sort of science of the brain and what happens on the outside. You have a craving, you have a need, because it feels like you need it to survive. How much are you going to use? As much as it takes. You're not going to stop. As much as it takes to satisfy. But what happens is, the brain says, no, wait a minute. There's no survival value in that. I'm going to turn down the volume. Then the person using doesn't get the same feeling. What do? Use some more. And the brain says, I thought I just fixed that. And it turns down the volume. And they use some more. And then, that's called tolerance. The brain is trying to tolerate the onslaught of these drugs. If you suddenly remove that drug, you unmask the vast change that the brain has gone, and you experience withdrawal. Withdrawal is the brain trying to get back to where it was before it had to tolerate all that. So, when that feeling comes on, it's like, I cannot survive unless I get that stuff. I'm going to take as much as I need to get satisfied. And if bad things happen, oh, well, guess what? Another part of the brain that's affected is a part that forms your memories of these things. And to oversimplify in the interest of time, a person may remember the good times better than the bad. It also affects the frontal lobes. The frontal lobes are where we make our decisions, where we make our judgments, where we turn over the pros and cons of various options and make our decision and a choice. That area is also disordered. So if I think I need this to live, and I'm going to use as much as I can, if bad stuff happens, well, I may not remember it's as bad as it is, and I might not be thinking about too straight about what choice to make, but even if I did, if I need it, that trumps bad stuff happening. The chemistry of the brain has been hijacked by those chemicals in this area of the 5 Fs. That's the science in a more straightforward way than all the chemicals.
Thank you, Dr. Emmel. So our next question is for our panelist, Tanya Maning. Tanya is a licensed independent social worker, clinical practice at Little River Medical Center, where she serves as the Director of Integrated Healthcare Services, which includes mental health, substance use, and infectious disease. So that's a wonderful segue, Tanya. One of the questions includes, what is integrated healthcare?
So at Little River Medical Center and throughout many primary care organizations and even now behavioral health centers, we talk about integrated healthcare services where we're focused on whole person healthcare. So for us at Little River Medical Center, we work with primary care providers, behavioral health providers, as well as other specialty services, which could be anywhere from our outreach department and health educators. And we work in team-based care, where a group of us come together, and of course, the patient, because it's patient-centered, and we're going to look at what can we do to help this patient best, where we're providing whole person care and meeting the patient where the patient's at and focusing on what their goals are.
Nice, so that is unique versus going to multiple doctors and offices and having to have records moved. Anyone can be able to go under one roof where all of the professionals are communicating together. And if I don't have health insurance, am I still able to get integrated health care at Little River Medical?
So at Little River Medical Center, we're a federally qualified health center, so we receive funding opportunities. So we treat everybody regardless of their ability to pay and offer slide fee.
Thank you, Tanya. All right, next up, we've got a question. I think this one will be going to Ms. Jackie Brown. So get ready, Ms. Jackie. So Jackie is in her 29th year for the South Carolina Department of Mental Health and is the director of the Waccamaw Center for Mental Health located in Conway. She joined the center in 1994 and has held several positions of leadership. So Jackie, we are so happy to have you. So your question is, if I'm having a mental health crisis, who do I call?
Well, okay, if during the day, you just call our center. And then in the evenings, we have a mobile crisis line. And if this is the point where it's suicidal, there's that 988 number.
Can you tell us what is 988 and where did that come from?
So 988 is years ago, this is just recently, when you was in suicidal, you will call 911. But 988 will direct you to behavioral health workers and get you connected to receive services.
Nice. Thank you. And while we're with you, would you please share with us what services does Waccamaw Mental Health provide to the community?
We are one of the community mental health centers. In the state of South Carolina, there are 16 mental health centers. Waccamaw is one of them. There's a community health center in every county. Waccamaw covers Georgetown County, Williamsburg County, and Oregon County. We provide services to adults who are severely mentally ill. We provide services to children with emotional disturbances. We have a full staff of psychiatric care. We have psychiatric nurses and therapists. We are the true medical model. We provide services.
Thank you. And our next question is going to be open. So I am going to just introduce one of our panelists and let you take a go at it. And then if anyone else wants to answer it. All right, are y'all ready? Okay. Mr. Joseph Linton is currently a peer support specialist working for Horry County government and the programs and services at J. Reuben Long. He's been in long-term recovery going on about 5 years. He comes from a long background of drug addiction, criminal background with jails and institutions with mental health issues. He is a single father of 2 girls and blessed to have them in his life today because of recovery and continuing to work the 12 steps. So Joseph, the question I'd like to pose to you is, what is the most common misconception of addiction or substance use disorder?
I'd say it's probably one of the slogans that I hear all the time in the rooms, and it's that we're not bad people getting good, we're sick people getting well. You know, working in the detention center like I do, we see the whole range of mental health, housing issues, pretty much anything that you can touch on there's an excess of those issues with people in jail coming out not having any support, housing, simple things like an ID card, social security card, birth certificate, and not having the means to get those because of all the filing and paperwork that's behind it all. Having an address to send those things to. You know, there's really a lot of hurdles for people, not only in jail, but especially coming out of jail to reintegrate into the community. And so those people, you know, they come out, and rather than go through those whole processes and keep fighting the fight to do that, they go back to what's natural, what I've done 100 times. And, you know, when you've got somebody saying, here's a kilo of this, you make some quick money, all right, I'm going to go make that quick money instead of, you know, spend 3 weeks trying to get an ID when I've been turned around at 2 DMVs. And, you know, so to reconnect people with those resources, it's probably the hardest thing to do. And that's the misconception, is that people just come out of jail and they want to do this again, when in reality there's a lot of hurdles that they have to jump.
Awesome. I'd like to throw in a question for you as well. So for those of us, for folks who may not be familiar with jail or prison, can you briefly tell us, when someone is released from J. Reuben Long, our local detention center, what happens? What does that look like when they walk out of the doors?
Really, that's on you. We do have pamphlet racks there. We do have a few resources that we provide to you, that if you take it upon yourself to grab it. You can ask for a bus voucher. You can ask for a few different things, but it's up to those people to ask for that help. Up until now, the jail has only had a jail diversion program, and we're in the process of spreading that out to the entire jail. It's the Next Steps Initiative program. And we're doing pretrial interventions, and anybody that needs any kind of help can reach out to us before they're released, and we can provide them with those resources and try to help connect them to that, instead of just giving them a phone number and say, have a good one. So.
Great, thank you, Joseph. And real quick, I'm going to introduce Kathy.
Cool. Like cool.
Cool, oh, I got it. Kathy Buell, Cool Bull. Buell. Struggling, anyway. So Kathy serves as the director of the Beacon at Lighthouse Behavioral Health Hospital's intensive outpatient program. Kathy completed her undergraduate education at Douglas College for Women at Rutgers University in New Jersey. She received her Master's of Science in Counseling Psychology from Chestnut Hill University in Philadelphia, and she is licensed in the field of addiction and has over 33 years of experience working with patients to treat substance use disorder and mental health. So, Kathy, I'd love from your perspective, what is the most common misconception of substance use disorder and addiction?
I think over the years, I was 5 when I started in the field. Over the years, I've seen a lot of people believe that it's just bad behavior. That, you know, they can stop if they wanted to. You know, if you just tried hard, if you would just, you know, make an effort type thing, and or do it because you love me, And I see this all too often and too frequent. And I love what the doctor said, because this is a brain disorder, you know. And the brain is hijacked, the brain is taken for a really bad ride. And we have what's oftentimes referred to as Stockholm Syndrome. I call it, because we have a relationship with substances, and that's the problem. And it's very hard to let go of this relationship for a lot of people. They come in and they might as well take their left arm off. And some of them will give you that. You know, the chemicals involved are very similar to falling in love, and a lot of the addicts are in love with the chemical. And it's a very abusive relationship. And we try to encourage people to understand that. You know, the drug is an abuser. It wants you separated, it wants you isolated, it wants you away from anybody who can help you. And it's trying to get you alone from negative space and to pick up again. And we try to encourage people to get support.
Thank you. And to piggyback on that, how do we support our loved ones?
It's challenging. It really is, because it's painful. And one of the things over the years I see is hurt people. And it's very hard to reach out to people that we see hurting themselves and love them back to life. It's extremely painful, and I think we need help to do that. You know, and I'm going to add in a personal note. As a recovering person myself, and I say that the 35 years of recovery, which is why I'm in this field, it was my family who helped me to get to where I am, and who continue to get me. My family has expanded now, obviously, but also my family is my community. So my coworkers, you know, my neighbors, you know, who are all very supportive. So the more we know, and the more we ask questions, the better we're all going to be able to help people in need. It's not a purposeful thing. People don't become addicted because they want to. Most of them don't even know they are.
Thank you, Kathy. We're going to switch.
Can I piggyback one thing on that?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Everybody's heard of HIV, right? It's an infection. It leads to AIDS. Usually when we get infections, we fight it off. Why can't we fight it off? Because it's infecting our actual immune system. We're talking about whether addiction is volitional, whether there can be willpower about it. The disorder of addiction is affecting the very organ that we're asking it to fix. In that way, it's similar to HIV. Of course, it's not volitional.
Thank you. We are going to switch gears, and we've got quite a few more questions, so we'll be coming back to substance use. The next one's going to be from Mr. William Hauser. William is currently the program director for New Directions of Horry County. They offer shelters as well as addiction outreach program. William is also a person in long-term recovery, and he gets the award for keeping his bio the shortest. And so, William, I love it. A man of few words, but they are the words we need to hear. So our question for you is, how can we help individuals that don't want to get help?
You got the question before you.
Easy question, William.
So before I speak, I will say that Ann asked me if I wanted the toughest question of the bunch, and then didn't tell me what she was going to ask. So how do we help people that don't necessarily want help? So me personally, and what I do on a daily basis is I just encourage them, and I encourage them to know that when they do want help, that there is a warm place for them to go where there can be a handoff and people will care about them. That I'm not mad at them for refusing any type of services or anything like that. As you read, I'm a person in long-term recovery myself, and there are times when I myself refused help. And there were times when I myself refused help, and people were mad at me and put me down, and how could you not want to do this, and so on and so forth. And all they did was push me away from the water or the well, so to speak. You know, but being there when that person is ready and is willing, and there's a difference between ready and willing, and I will say that. But to be able to be there for them when the iron is hot and it's the right moment, and just to know that they can come back to you regardless of any circumstances or anything that they've done, and there's going to be no judgment or any sideways looks or comments or anything, but just love and compassion, and here we are to help you. at this moment.
You said something specific, ready and willing, and I see Tanya's ready to jump in too. Can you help us, because I know some folks, what do you look for to tell the difference between ready and willing? Or you can either pass off to Tanya first.
No, I don't want that one. You finish that.
So ready is more of a mindset to me, and willing is more of an action, right? So for years I would say, I want to do this or I want to do that, and I see it not just through myself but through other people as well. You know, I'm homeless but I want a house, or I'm addicted and I want to be well, or I have mental health problems and I want to be well. But the difference is the person that's willing is going to take forth the action. And they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to call these mental health providers, or they're going to walk down to Little River Medical Center, or they're going to call 211 or do whatever it is that's going to help them overcome that barrier that they're struggling with at that moment in time.
Thank you, because those are two different things, and that's really helpful to hear you explain it. All right, Tanya?
So I also want to add, having worked over 30 years in community health, one of the things is we always see patients from different levels, and individuals who are using substances or have a mental health challenge they're not ready to treat or take medications for. And it's real important, and when I talk about meeting a person where they're at, is something that we're really big at Little River Medical Center and working with our clinical teams, is harm reduction. And so, you know, if we have a patient come in who continues to use substances, is aware, isn't ready to change, it's real important that we still educate them. So we educate them about how to use more safely, how to reverse an overdose, how to reduce risk of an overdose. And so it's still providing them information, because like William shared, when they are ready, it's you they're coming to, you who've always been there to support them non-judgmentally. And so that when they're ready to get that help, they know you're the person that's going to be there for them. And so harm reduction is equally as important.
Thank you. That was one of our other questions that we had, was please explain harm reduction. So it's being able to provide some supports in place as folks are willing and moving towards, well, I'm about to get clinical. Harm reduction, concisely, how would you explain it?
I explain it as simple as reducing harm. So it depends. So if it's someone who's using illicit substances, we're reducing the harm of an overdose. We're talking about reducing HIV transmission, hepatitis C transmission. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking harm reduction. Similar to when we're working with individuals with HIV, of reducing the risk of transmitting.
Great, thank you. Blakely's ready.
Well, I was gonna say, I know Dr. Immels talked about this, so I'm sure he could answer, or Tanya, but the question of, by having resources like harm reduction, doesn't that make addicts more addicts and they never wanna stop?
Make you
No.
better about it.
There's been considerable research about this. Harm reduction techniques not only do not allow or encourage people to use more, it actually makes them interact more often with places that are helping. And the research showed that more people get into treatment by giving harm reduction than by not doing it. Kind of exactly the opposite of what you would have thought. We worried about this when we made the vaccine for the human papillomavirus that causes cervical cancer that is passed sexually. They want to give this vaccine to adolescents so that they're already protected before they have sex, and everybody thought they would have more sex because now it's safe. They're going to do it when they're going to do it. The vaccination didn't make any difference. So, and just to put kind of another, this word harm reduction carries a lot of emotional baggage with it sometimes, but and we have a lot of law enforcement here. Did you ever notice how people drive too fast? And sometimes recklessly?
I'm sure he does.
At some point in history, there were too many people dying. Oh, I got an idea. Let's reduce the deaths. Maybe a seatbelt. Then, that wasn't good enough. Maybe a shoulder harness to help the head thing. That wasn't enough. We still got the neck thing. Let's invent something where a balloon can come out in microseconds. And you got the airbag. All of this is harm reduction. Everywhere in public health, we're trying to keep people not dead. we find ways to keep them not dead so they can move on to better things.
Thank you. Now we are going to move on to a question dealing with the issue of homelessness. And I'm going to pose this to William and anybody else who wants to answer. Tell us about our shelter system.
So here in Myrtle Beach, I'll speak about the shelters that are here that are operated by New Directions. We have 3 shelters. We have a men's shelter, a women's shelter, and a family shelter. We really have 4 because we have a 4-unit apartment building that we use for some of the clients that are a little bit further along. They've been with them longer, and they're working and stable and overcome some of those barriers that they may have had when they first came in. We have a men's shelter. We have 2 different programs at our men's shelter. We have an emergency shelter, which is just a come in, take a shower, have a safe place to sleep, leave in the morning, come as you are, no questions asked, no anything at all. And we have more of a residential program on the other side, to where we offer groups and classes and case management, and we provide more of a structured style of living and type of day. We do the same thing at our women's shelter. Our family shelter, though, is a little bit different because the families who are homeless, what we found out is they kind of have different barriers, similar but different, at the same time of the single men or single women, right? They're more involved in the process of working with DSS and child care and education and things like that. So the parents, we do have parents that do have substance use disorder or mental health use disorders and things of that nature, but it's more of a focus on bringing the family back into being united together in a safe, permanent environment and things of that nature. We also offer a multitude of other things. We offer a bus ticket to anybody that shows up at our door, as long as they have a safe place or a destination, family somewhere else that it is they want to go. We won't send someone away just to be homeless in another town. That is something we won't do. But if they come and they say, hey, I got stranded down here, I have family in Colorado, we will get you a bus ticket to wherever it may be. We even offered to fly someone to Jamaica one time that was here on a visa. So I mean, we will do our best to get the person back reunited with their family, as well as to recovery, if that's something that they're looking for as well. We have a shower facility, as well as it's a shower/laundry facility. It's one building. It's open to anybody on the public that is homeless. And it's open 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for people to come and take a shower, as well as wash their belongings, and just sit and hang out if they want to. They can charge their phone. They can get out of the elements. They can just sit with no questions asked, no judgment passed, or anything like that. For the men and women that are in our more residential style of a program, we have a bicycle program. So they can use bicycles for transportation to get themselves to and from work, or to the bus station or the transit station. And we offer dinner in the community 7 nights a week as well to anybody who wants to eat, not just people who are homeless. Anyone can show up and have dinner at 6:30. I think that's it. We do an addiction outreach program too. So we go to the jails and the hospitals, and we meet people where they are, and we offer services. Our staff has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to addiction, and a wealth of resources when it comes to any type of recovery that it looks like, whether it be medically assisted treatment or faith-based recovery or abstinence-based recovery through 12-step programs or whatever. We're there to help you try and navigate that system and get what it is you're exactly looking for. What we found out is it's not a one-size-fits-all type deal, right? So it's our job to advocate for the person and what it is that they want and what it is that they're looking for, and help them try and navigate through that system and achieving their goals.
Thanks, William. And you said something that sparked another question I'm going to pull out, and this is open for everyone on the panel, because I know several of you can answer this. What is outreach in our community?
I don't want to take over.
Anyone?
I'll take. So outreach for us at New Directions is we go out with the law enforcement. One of our peer support specialists, they actually went on a ride along today with law enforcement to follow up with people who had overdosed, and just follow up with them, see how they were doing, offer them any resources and help. We do outreach Wednesdays that we participate with law enforcement also, where they go and they walk in high-risk zones or areas, I don't know how exactly they're labeled these days. But they're going in places where this population of people mainly like to congregate, and they're just shaking their hand, introducing themselves to them, hey, this is what we have, this is what we're doing, we're here for you when it is ready to make a change.
And if I can add real quick, Outreach Wednesday came out of our coordinated effort. And so it includes law enforcement and also some workers and staff from several different agencies, Little River Medical, New Directions, Echo, maybe leaving folks off, and Shoreline, thank you, and some other community members as well that want to help. So that has been nice to have a consistent, steady time with one person leading the charge, Officer Josh Eller. That has been great. We still have a long way to go, and we have gotten started. Outreach looks and sounds different at every different agency. It's like when you hear the word assessment, that can mean many different things to many people. So that's where I'd love to keep hearing about outreach. I see Jackie, you're ready to go?
Yes, so with Waccamaw, we've been doing outreach for over 30 years. We have a federal grant called the PATH Grant, which is Projects for Assisted the Transition from Homelessness. And as you know, about 6% of folks have a mental illness. But when you look at the homeless population, you're looking at 20 to 25% are mentally ill. So our staff, we have a staff of 2 currently now, but we have a vacant position. But we go out there and our goal is to connect these folks who are mentally ill into services. As of September 2022 to current, we have connected over 89 individuals into services for Waccamaw.
That is awesome. And once again, it's called the what outreach team?
It's the PATH program.
Great, the PATH program.
Right.
Awesome. And Jackie, so I'm going to ask you, everybody get ready before we finish up. I would love to hear from you. You're one of our folks who has been in service in our community longer. What do you love about what you get to do every day and in serving our community?
Helping folks. I really do. I just have a passion for helping people. I've started doing homeless outreach, so I just have a passion for just helping folks. Folks come in and they just need help and just connect and get them connected, developing housing. We develop affordable housing for our patients who are mentally ill. I just have a passion for helping folks.
Great, thanks, Jackie. Now, we are going to, who else wants to answer that question? Outreach.
I can talk a little bit about. So at United Way of Horry County, we have 2 outreach programs. One, we partner with the Center for Counseling and Wellness, who is here tonight somewhere. And we have licensed mental health counselors on site at a multitude of locations consistently to be able to provide free mental health services for anyone. So we have them stationed at all of the shelters at New Directions, at J. Reuben Long, Friendship Medical Clinic, Sea Haven for Youth, North Strand Housing Shelter, and I'm probably missing others. And then anyone can call and go see a counselor at their office as well. And that's no questions asked. It's for anyone uninsured, underinsured. It doesn't matter. The other piece is we have a community resource coordinator. We're hoping to add 1, if not 2 more. And Angela is out in the community really helping people navigate a lot of the systems that Joe talked about. I mean, if you don't have an ID, you really can't do anything. And then you have to sign up on the computer for all of your benefits, and you have to do all these things, and there's a lot of questions, and it can be very overwhelming. So Angela is out there to help people as they kind of navigate their way towards self-sufficiency, goal setting, helping with resumes, financial education, and things like that. And she's been so busy since she started. We're looking to add a couple more of those positions throughout the county.
Nice, thank you, Blakely. Any other outreach?
So Little River Medical Center, we have outreach and we have teams like that are here tonight that do community events, do tabling to help educate community members. We have boots on the ground staff who are out there. We have who we call population health specialists, where they work with our primary care providers and clinical teams For individuals who have gaps in care, well, they'll go out to, the last known address, try to find them and link them back to healthcare. We have a department called our outreach team that help individuals apply for SNAP benefits and any community resources to anybody who walks in our door. So it looks very different depending on who we're targeting.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, and Echo, moderating, I need to make sure I'm answering as well. So for Echo, we have Mr. Mike Warren that's over there in one of our red shirts. And Echo provides street outreach here in the Myrtle Beach area. So Mike is going out, finding folks, meeting with them, and working to get them connected. So we do some street outreach as well. Awesome. All right, now, it's one of my favorite questions. I'm gonna switch things up again. Does anyone have a success story they can share?
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll share a success story from. So when I was hired by New Directions, the city of Myrtle Beach, what they did was, it was at the height of, they thought it was the height of the opioid epidemic in 2017. The city said, we want to create a position to go out and beat the street and try and offer people help and things like that. And New Directions took on the challenge of hiring the person in order to do that. The very first person that I was able to provide a scholarship to go to treatment has been well ever since. So that was in February of 2018. I started in October of 2017 and I had to get things up and going and whatnot. So the very first person I ever scholarshiped is well to this day. And he's employed by a treatment facility now in the area where I sent him to treatment at. And he's been able to have children, and he went from a person who OD'd in the homeless shelter to recreating his life and restructuring a life and being able to thrive today and to help others, to give back what was given to him. It's truly amazing.
Other success stories, I know y'all have some.
So this really, one feeds into the other. You were asking about the community outreach, what it looks like. Us trying to reach out more the way we are, letting people know not only the resources that are available outside of the jail, but bringing those resources to them inside of the jail, like SC Works, the Center for Counseling and Wellness, 12-step program, anger management, parenting, making these things available to them, because when you're looking at a laundry list of this is what I need to do to get my life back in order, like I said, it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, but especially somebody that they may not even have addiction issues. They might only have mental health issues. They might be repeat offenders because of mental health issues. There's so many things that go along with that. And I can say that I've seen a substantial increase in the success that we have with recidivism since starting with the jail 4 years ago. The program had been running, but we really started to try some new things and to try to listen to them. And there's a couple of gentlemen sitting in here right now that I personally interviewed while they were just sitting there doing empty time, and it provided them some resources when they got out, and they've been well. They started either helping out and running recovery home, that or getting cars and doing the things that they're supposed to do that were never possible to them before. I've seen them rebuild their family relationships. I just got a call right after Christmas from a gentleman that was a lifelong gang member. While he was in our program, he had 2 family members die that they were shot by other family members in opposing gangs. And he wanted nothing to do with any of what we had to say. Those last 2 months that he was with us, something clicked, and he started really diving into 12-step recovery and things like that. And now he's out and moved to another state, got a good job, got married. He's chairing meetings now. Like, he's really turned the whole thing around. And it's been a blessing to see some of these guys grow the way they have.
Hi, Kathy. I've been doing this so long, I wouldn't still do it if there weren't successes. There's just no way I could get up every day and go to work. One of the ones I think that stands out as a personal one for me, and I'll share had been diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018. And when I went to the hospital to get blood work one day, there was a young man there. And he said to me, "Oh my God, Kathy, you remember me?" And I looked at him and he looked so familiar, and I see so many people. And I said, "You look so familiar." And he explained, "You were at the hospital when I came in, and I was suicidal and I was going to kill myself. And you called my dad, and you made him come in and talk to me. Because he had just come out as gay, and his father was very upset, his mother. And he was pretty sure he was going to kill himself, even when he left. But we had a long conversation, we talked a lot of things, we did things over the days that he spent there. It wasn't a long time. But he said, "You saved my life." He, working at the hospital, was being able to draw blood, he was finishing up school, he had had a criminal history in the past, everything was expunged, everything went well for him. And he said, "Look at this, you saved my life, now I get to save yours." And he did.
Any other success stories you're welcome to share later? We will move to our next question. This is the $1 million question that I hear not only here in our local community, but outside of here. Why do we not have more prevention services? And if that's a really big one, I can change it to what prevention services do we have and what do we need?
So I'll tackle a little bit about, when we talk about individuals experiencing homelessness, mental health challenges, substance use, you still have to address stigma. Stigma and fear. And so, those are hard topics. People don't want to talk about stuff like that and come up with how can we improve upon prevention services. So that's the elephant in many of the rooms that I'm in, is when you talk about, this is prevention, how can we do it? And there are funding opportunities, it's how do we get buy-in from across the board? It's not only about management for me in mine, or I might have frontline workers who are all on board, but is everybody else, are the clinical teams feeling the same way? And so it's, we're still addressing a lot of the stigma associated with those three topics.
Would anyone like to add to that on top of stigma and fear is part of the problem and the barrier?
I was gonna say, probably too, just knowing those things that you can do beforehand, so that it doesn't get to homelessness or substance abuse. So, having those mental health resources that when it begins, people feel comfortable to go and seek help and they're not judged and they're not thought differently upon. And just knowing the resources that are out there. I mean, hopefully everyone here learned something, from this group about some things that maybe that they could take back to either themselves or someone to help prevent, a much larger problem. So I think it goes back to that stigma and just the education, knowing what's out there so that you could maybe tell a loved one or tell a friend or intervene before it gets to the point that it really is hard to move on.
I just wanted to add, in terms of treatment with prevention services too, one of the more difficult things is as an intensive outpatient program running prevention, we run into so many problems with transportation, money, finances, insurance, trying to get people into services, being able to be there to get the services. And, that's a big issue. Transportation is one of the biggest things I see, for people to get to the places to get help.
Do you also find we use the words a lot, accessibility, affordability, we sling those around a lot, but do y'all find that our organizations and services, whether it be yours or others, are offering services at times that are available to folks who may want to be able to use them? Asked differently, for someone who's working and isn't able to make it there between 9 and 5 or traditional hours, do we have any agencies or services or programs that are available to make them more accessible?
I think it's difficult. I know in our agency there's 3 of us, so We do everything we can do to be there when we can be there. We've moved our own hours sometimes when people have to come in late at night or later, but we are still kind of confined to a normal, 9 to 7 day, 9 to 9 day.
We actually have a late night clinic on Wednesdays. We'll be at 7 o'clock.
Great, thank you.
Jumping back for a minute to the question sort of about just prevention, and we talked about the stigma and other things, but there's another sort of just natural humanistic things. Humans are kind of wired that when we do something, we expect to see the result pretty soon. And prevention is predicated on stuff that I do now will prevent stuff in the distant future that you'll never see because it got prevented. It's very hard to do research to show what works, and it's very hard to convince people that it's worth the investment up front, because if they don't see anything later because it worked, it's a really difficult thing to get across to people.
That's an excellent point. I think about the example of reading about where there were accidents happening at like a four-way, an intersection. And so law enforcement parked there, and there happened to be a decrease, but there was no way to know, did accidents go down because there was a presence there, or did it happen for some other reason? At the end of the day, the accidents went down, but you're right, how we're human and want to be able to prove it and see it. Thank you. All right, so any question? I'd like to open it up for questions from the audience to hear what you may like to ask. I see a hand over here. Christy, will this microphone reach all around?
I actually have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, go for it.
Reference to mental illness. Okay, sure. I moved down here a couple of years now. My son has mental illness. He's bipolar schizophrenic. We've had a really long ride with this. He was self-functional for a real long time. We came down here and there was nothing available to us. It was impossible to get resources. I mean, I went to the court system, I went to the police department, I went everywhere, okay? I had a judge, I actually had somebody at the courthouse that finally tried to help us, and she said to me, the best thing that you can do for your family and your son right now is, because I was going to have him mandated on medication. So she said the best thing you can do is press charges against him, get him into jail, and we'll keep him there until he gets in front of a judge and we can get him into a hospital. Well, that's a joke, because he was in jail for a very short time, released out onto the streets, got arrested again, now for vagrancy, and he has, he's mentally disturbed. He's off his meds for almost a year, and he's got a spitting disorder, and he spit. Well, he spit 4 or 5 times, which is a federal offense down here for police, okay? And they don't know he has a mental illness, all right? Now he's got 5 federal offenses against him. He's in jail. And we finally just got a court date to say that he's going to be, released to a hospital to get actual help at this point. But he sits in jail because there's no place for him to go. It took 6 months the last time for him to get a bed. My question is, when are you going to get more facilities? When are your police officers going to get more education on how to deal with people with mental illness? Hey, I'm here, I joined NAMI and I'm getting my training and what have you. I've offered my services to, I believe her name is Sherry, who does training for the police officers. I'm here, I can help, all right? I want to know what you are going to do to help me and help the other people in my situation and other parents in my situation. The facilities are not easy to access. There should be commercials. There should be pamphlets in your supermarket when you walk in your doors. Your police officers should have access to phone numbers when they come. Not that they say, well, you've called us 3 times, and if you don't get an order of protection, we're not going to come so fast. That's inexcusable. It's just not the way things are supposed to be handled. You know, mental illness is a big problem, and a lot of your drug addiction is because somebody has a mental illness that they're trying to cover up, whether it be OCD or bipolar or what have you. Your drug addiction, a lot of it is mental illness. So you need a lot more education. And, you know, I want to know where we go for that.
Thank you. Who would like to start out answering that? We had a couple in there, and then we'll come over here.
So as far as, as far as services, the Community Mental Health Center, we have billboards up that you can call and tell you all about if you're in a crisis and that we exist. So I'm really surprised to hear that the courts didn't direct you to the Community Mental Health Centers. All law enforcement knows about the Community Mental Health Centers, but they've all been there. So is
But
it,
they don't
is
know
it,
the information sometimes. They don't know, they don't have a number to give you. You know, there should be a pamphlet that they have that, you know, you have these facilities in your area, boom, 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 boom. Whether it be for the person that has the mental illness or the person that's dealing with the person that has the mental illness. There should be something that they can hand to them to help them. You know, I mean, that's really important. I knew of Waccamaw, okay? But try to get an appointment in there because you have no people. It's very difficult, and it's not because you're not doing your job. Don't take it that way. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate everything that you do. But there has to be a better way than the way it is right now, because when you have such a short amount of people, you know, access other, you know, like what you did here tonight, this is awesome. Because, you know, this is what people really need.
so with Waccamaw, if you don't need an appointment, we have open access. So you can walk in the door at 8:30. We open up at 8:30. We're open at 8:30.
That's not what I was told originally, so I didn't know that.
I don't know. Okay, well, we're open every day, Monday through Friday, from 8:30 to 5. On Wednesdays, we're open at 7. If you don't need an appointment, we have open access.
Thank you, Jackie, and I know that's something we've learned through our Myrtle Beach coordinated effort in meeting is some of us didn't get the right message that was passed along to us. And so having somebody from the agency who can help us understand and educate us or update us, or what can happen is they may not be aware there is an issue. So being able to relay that so it can be addressed. Real quickly, this could be a long one, but I just want to point out as well, we don't have enough inpatient beds and or programming. I think we're all aware of that. So what can happen is we just start talking about what we do have, but I want to be clear, we are all aware we don't have enough inpatient programming and facilities available, and that's something not just here in Myrtle Beach, but across the PD. It's something that is a huge issue. Thank you, Mary, for your questions and raising that and helping us to be able to hear and share on that. All right, next up we have right here. Will that be you or your little one in the bag? If you can't see, there's a cute little dog right here.
She's not talking.
I would like to know what services are available with someone with mental health issues that refuses medication. How do you treat someone who is in denial of their mental disability?
All right, that one's going back to Miss Jackie.
Motivational interviewing. Unfortunately, though, there are laws that protect folks, and if they're not deemed to be harmful to themselves or others, we just can't force folks to take medication.
For our other clinicians on the panel, so thank you for raising the legal part of it and the rights that folks have, even if we're aware it may harm them. For our mental health clinicians on the panel, real quickly, what are some things that can be done in interacting and or trying to speak or work with folks to get the help? Anything that you can educate us on, signs, symptoms, or way that we can speak, approach, or interact with a loved one or someone?
So without going into too much detail, at Little River Medical Center, we've trained all of our staff on mental health first aid. because one of the important things is educating individuals how to identify a mental health challenge and how to talk about treatment options and meeting them where they're at. And so that's a big thing, is being able to communicate with an individual who's experiencing a mental health challenge and providing them resources.
Thank you. And back to your original question, I know that's a big one. So being able to have to honor someone's rights wherever they're at, and also what can we do before we get there. So mental health first aid training is something that is provided within the community by SC Thrive.
We also do it.
Little River Medical does it, so if we can make a note of that for our coordinated effort team, I think that's a wonderful idea of what we can look to do. All right, who else has a question in the audience?
They asked one more question.
I'm on the way.
What was your name from J. Rubin?
Joe.
Joseph. My son's in J. Rubin right now, okay? And he's taking his meds, he's doing what he's supposed to, he finally realizes, okay? He actually saw somebody jump off of a railing a few floors above him and land right in front of him. What kind of resources are available to him in there? Because he's having a real rough time.
So we have flyers that we hand out to the inmates in certain units. We're trying to get it going in all the units. It's been a slow process, but we have posters up. And we just instruct them to ask for programs and services under the chaplain. And we will come talk to you and assess you from there. Like I said, we've got the Center for Counseling and Wellness coming in. If you have other mental health issues, there is mental health help in the jail. Sometimes we can advocate and streamline that for you. Really it's them reaching out, like was talked about with the laws the way they are. They have to be the one to reach out to us and ask us for help. But once they ask us for help, sky's the limit of really what we can do. And we've got many things coming into the jail, and even more hopefully coming soon. We find a problem and we're like, okay, well, what can we do to get this going for you? So.
Thank you.
Also too, Wakama, we have a counselor that's embedded at J. Rubin Law, so he's there 3 days a week.
Any other questions in the audience? Did I see a hand halfway or all the way?
So this a little bit piggybacks off of what she was asking about a moment ago. And it was just, is there any better, more streamlined way that when you go to the courthouse and you're going to individual services and things, that they can kind of, it seems like they work against each other. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I got very lucky. I found a woman, Jane, that worked in the courthouse.
It just seems like they know their services, but they don't know what everybody else does and where they're at.
There's no coordination.
Yeah. So, I definitely experienced that in the past.
I'd be absolutely happy to answer that question. I'll introduce myself again. My name is Amy Prock. I'm the chief here in Myrtle Beach. That is the absolutely very reason why we are here tonight, and the very reason why you see these stickers. Actually, I think mine came off, but it says Myrtle Beach Area Coordinated Effort. That very reason, exactly what you're explaining right now, and the exact reason why we're here tonight and why we put the coordinated effort together. Our service providers, our officers, our law enforcement, our fire, EMS, we were getting frustrated because we didn't know who to tell. We would run into somebody. I have my community team officers over here, my regulatory team behind me. We would run into somebody on the street and we would pick up the phone and we would start dialing and we would say, okay, this is what we're dealing with right now. And we'd get the first service provider and can you come meet us right now? Because we would be down on the boardwalk, for instance. And we would get, no, I can't come out right now. Or we could come out, but they can't transport anybody to their service, to get services where they were at. And we have great relationships with so many different agencies, but that's the problem. And, you know, they asked the outreach question, and everybody who's a member of Coordinated Effort says they know exactly what the next words coming out of my mouth are. Outreach is not referrals. Outreach is coming out, meeting people where they're at. That's my favorite line, because I say that's exactly what it is. It's not everybody sitting at a desk waiting for somebody to call. We've got to get people where they're at. And that's the thing, is we are constantly out in the field, and a lot of the people in Coordinated Effort are constantly out in the field. But that is why we started Coordinated Effort, because of that very reason. We have so many different service providers and so many great service providers that are doing amazing things, but some of us are doing the same things. Some things we have gaps in, and we weren't communicating. We spent, I think the first meeting was almost 3 hours, because we were looking at each other going, oh my gosh, you do that? You do that? And we had to sit there and define what everybody was doing. So what are we doing with that information now? We're trying to do more of this, so one, all of us know what each other are doing, and we're trying to get that information out to everybody. We're getting it out to our other partners. When I say we're getting out, I'm getting out to my other law enforcement partners. We're getting it out to each other's service providing, so we're making sure that we are trying to fill those gaps. Some things that we didn't know that other agencies did. When we started, we had one person working on IDs. Now we have 3 people that are working on IDs in our community. When we started, I only knew of 1 person that could help with prescriptions. Now I know 4 people that can help with prescriptions in our community. There's all these different things that we didn't know before that we know now, and that we're working towards. It's not perfect. We are not done yet. We've got a lot to do. And as Ms. Ann has said multiple times tonight, and answering all these questions that we're trying to get out to our community, this is what it's all about. It's trying to get that information out and educate, and that's why we're here tonight. And we're going to continue to do this. We try to do this every other month, or at least every quarter, so we make sure our community is getting informed as well. The city of Myrtle Beach hired Michelle Smith. She's an opioid program coordinator. She's in the back room. She's going to stand up and wave at you. She has, what are we on, month 2? 2.5. Okay, 2.5. She's working towards providing a lot more help in our community as well as surrounding communities, and trying to coordinate efforts as well. It's a hard job in our area. We have a lot to do, but and we also, the United Way is doing the same thing with several of the things that they're trying to provide to our community, not only with just substance use disorder, but also with mental health and our as well as the unhoused. And it's a huge project. All of these different agencies are looking at outreach and how we can do it better. So I could stand up here all night, and a lot of people in this room know that, because I am extremely passionate about what we can do to improve efforts in our community, and I know that there's so many people in here the same way. So we got a lot of work to do, we know.
Well, just so that you know, there is a meeting on Saturday at the Socrates Library at 10:15 for mental illness. It's going to be with NAMI. So if anybody's interested in that, that's going to be, at the Socrates Library. So, if you've got, someone in your family or someone you know, we're going to, try and do more meetings. This is our first meeting in this area that we're going to be doing. Usually, like the main base is Charleston. We're trying to start a new one here again. So, if anybody's interested in that, anybody can walk into this meeting. It's, like I said, at Socrates Library on Saturday morning at 10:15.
So that was Socrates, 10:15, Saturday. And we have another plug tomorrow.
Oh, veterans. There's a veterans coffee and education here tomorrow, 9 to noon. So if you know of anybody that needs that kind of assistance, we'll be here.
I also just wanted to put in a quick plug for survivors of suicide loss. They have a support group. They have online support groups, but their in-person one meets at the YMCA of Coastal Carolina. The group meets continually throughout the year. The in-person meetings are held on the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. So, for instance, your son who lost someone, This would be,
No, this wasn't somebody he lost, this was someone in the jail, he actually saw it.
oh, okay.
That couldn't handle
Okay,
what was happening.
but this is still a place where he could talk about what he
Yeah.
saw and get support from other people who have been through similar experiences.
Thank you.
And I think that that's a critical mental health service as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Is the barbecue setting in? I'm getting tight, I see a hand in the back.
So this isn't really a question, but this is an offer. As Chief Prock and Steph know, I am the Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Myrtle Beach. And particularly, human services is it's a field that I'm very passionate about for personal reasons. One of the things that I'm working on developing for the city is our week-long Innovation Academy, which is focused on primarily process improvement. As we know in our human services field and our health field, every second counts. And every second that gets wasted due to bureaucracy, red tape, paper, etc., causes issues down the line, right? So in the next couple of months, as we work on developing that Innovation Academy, I welcome each of you and your agencies to reach out to me and participate. I would love to extend that offer and that training to you and your folks, because it really matters every second.
Thank you. What was your name again?
Howard Waldy.
And do you have business cards with you?
I sure do.
Great, so you can see them and grab some business cards. Thank you. So far, no accidents tonight. That's good. All right, any other questions from the audience? I would love to we got a hand up. Yes, Emma.
So this also is really a question, more of a statement, since we're talking about spreading community resources and everything. 211 is a referral service, and there is over 3,000 resources statewide within our database, whether that's you need help with a rent bill, a utility bill, mental health resources, there's free clinics. I think just within Horry County, Blakely can correct me if I'm wrong, there's over 400 resources just within Horry County. And I keep hearing over and over again, it seems like just no one is aware of it. So that's kind of where I come in, spread the word. And so you can log on to sc211.org. You can type in your zip code and it gets very specific. The website's super easy to navigate. You can also call 211 or you can text 211 if you want to. And what I would also like to offer to Chief here is if you haven't had a formal training on 211, I would love to be able to come in and meet face to face with all the officers so they can have a formal training on 211 and they'd be able to roll off the top of their head if they're meeting with someone and they don't know where to point that person in a specific direction. If they know the resources within 211, they can start naming stuff off just be a bigger way to spread the word of resources that are available. Because there's a ton that are available, it just seems like a lot of people just don't know about them. So that's my job. I got business cards too. I got lots of pamphlets over here too. If you want to learn more about 211, please come and talk to me. I would love to talk all about it. That's my job. I want to help. I want to spread as much resources that 211 has. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Lynch. I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Counseling and Wellness. You've heard it mentioned a few times. I figured I'd chime in. A couple things, kind of touching on the outreach. Obviously, Blakely mentioned that us with the United Way grant through Breaking Barriers, I think appropriately named, are in a number of facilities around the area. Of course, we have 4 offices. We started with 1 therapist, 1 office in North Myrtle Beach. We are now roughly around 30 therapists and 4 offices, plus our partner sites through Breaking Barriers. So that's part of the outreach, to get out there. Also, Chief Prock and I, and through the Chapin Foundation, we are beginning our Myrtle Beach Police Department ride-alongs with our CIT trained officers beginning February 3rd. We're starting implementing the program February 3rd, February 4th. We're going to start on weekends, Friday and Saturday night, just to assist, being able to get there and be in touch and assisting the officers and helping defuse, de-escalate, and hopefully link them to further mental health services depending on what that is. So I just wanted to share, like, I'm really excited to see everybody in here. I know many of the wonderful people in here from some past agency work, but this is the way it's moving. I know Chief Prock and I had a conversation not too long ago with that. Some of the frustrations I hear, the service providers at times have similar frustrations, but the police have similar frustrations because there are a lot of barriers, be it due to laws, due to other things, due to lack of resources, I heard ready and willing, but that able, the ability, drugs affect one's cognitive ability. So, and finding the appropriate resources to get them off. And, medical detoxification center in Overy County would be a wonderful thing. The Lighthouse provides some services, and we have, some possible better training in some of our local hospitals. There's a lot of different things. Some hospital systems have a whole different ER, mental health ER, that's separate from the medical ER, and that's something I've mentioned to a few people. There's a lot, but we're moving in a better direction, and this forum, I think, is indicative of that. So just wanted to kind of give that plug. Of course, the Center for Counseling and Wellness, we have a table out there. Feel free to chat with me after, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing I think a lot of us have learned, I have in almost 22 years of doing this work, and that is we can assume there's an issue until we're able to talk about and say what that issue is. We're not either able to understand another person, an agency, or an issue, or we're not able to do anything differently about it. So beginning to talk about it, letting others know. We've got leadership folks here on the panel, out in the audience. I encourage and challenge you. Come and participate in the Myrtle Beach Coordinated Effort or another community group that you have heard today. Help us not only raise awareness, but better understand where the gaps are, where the supports are, and what we can do together to move that forward. Some of it we'll be able to do locally. Some of it's going to take more advocacy on a larger scale. But as we all know, we are working towards that, and we are making progress. For those of you who are newer tonight, we encourage you and hope you'll come back, if nothing else, to encourage us as we keep moving forward. But it is amazing to be a part of a community that is engaged and that cares and that is willing to do the work. And I always say, please bring 5 people next time. Please show up to the coordinated effort. 5 new people that you think could benefit from being able to hear and learn more. So before we wrap up, I know Jackie asked you earlier what you love about what you do. Anyone else on the panel would like to share with us, what do you love about serving and the work that you get to do in the community?
I just love to serve and help our community.
I think everyone up here is the same, just to help.
Humans are hard.
Yes, humans are hard, but we have big hearts of service.
So I can say that I got my job because of carrying the message of 12-step recovery into the jail, and met up with a company that was already in there, Life Recovery, and was offered a job as a peer support specialist. And to see people get linked with the resources for getting out or while they're in there, and that has grown so much. Like I said, in the time that Dustin Walters has been running the program, and these community outreach meetings and getting out there and meeting people, listening to people and what their needs are and addressing those rather than, okay, this is what we think you need. So we're going to provide this. If you don't like it, you got to go somewhere else. Trying to really listen to what it is that people need and making that efficient. Not putting in a request and then 6 months later it's like, oh, I don't know what happened there. On a related note, one issue we really had a hard time with is getting people optometry help. So if you happen to know an optometrist, please come talk to me. I desperately need one. But, yeah, just to see people get linked to these resources is probably my favorite part, because, you know, it's what they need. They grow a lot.
Again, this is such a rewarding field. I was taught a long time ago that human beings are spiritual beings struggling to be human. Being human is messy, and it certainly is. And it's okay. It's okay that we're messy. Let's do it together, though. Let's clean up together. And I really do believe that, these types of things, these forums, these avenues, be able to reach out to each other and say, hey, maybe I got a better idea where you could go. I got a lead where this resource will help you, or, this is what it's all about, because so many of us don't know each other, and what we can offer. And it is such a rewarding feeling to see someone meet their goals, and be able to live each day, and function. When we struggle so much at times to do that. Thank you.
I do what I do. I mentioned earlier doing it because someone did it for me. And they did it for me for free. They did it for me with no strings attached. It was just an act of pure altruism. It was an act of unconditional love that I would only like to think that I could give back to this day. So I don't know if I lived my life trying to reenact that act of unconditional love that was shown to me by a random person that wasn't of any relation to me at all. Or I like to think this, that it's the human thing to do to help. So it's just doing the right thing and being there when that person is in need is the right thing to do, and to help your brother, your sister, your neighbor, or whatever it is, and just to be there and be willing to help someone when they're in need of help.
Oh, I already said it.
Awesome. Chief, do you want to close this out, or do you want me to end with a quote, or?
Give us a
Thank you
quote.
for coming, appreciate y'all very much.
Give us a quote.
Oh, so our closing quote at the Place of Tanya is one by Arthur Ashe, and that is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And then I add on, aim to do more. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Please stay around. We've got a question, comment, word of advice?
It's not a comment. It's a thank you. My name is Jonathan Robinson. The police officers know me as Shiloh. Y'all saved my life. The officer that put those cuffs on me that day, up there in front of the store on Joe White, I asked him why it took you so long. You were looking, doctor, at somebody say, I'm not going to do drugs no more. You were looking at an individual like Joe. I'm the one he was talking about, the halfway house, the recovery house. I dog sick. I got elite people allow me to stay in their house while they go to Africa or wherever. This man is over the house that I'm in. He's grooming me now to take over that house. I could not do that without that arrest on May 5th, 2021. I'm in recovery. I'm working on my second year. Thank y'all.
Y'all have an amazing night. Safe travels home. We'll see you the third Thursday of next month at 1 p.m. at here.